All right, let's talk a little bit about negotiating with the seller. One of the best gambits of all is called the flinch. Yeah, and you should use this anywhere and everywhere you're buying anything, with the exception of, say, Walmart or Home Depot. So, how's the flinch work? Simple. Whenever anybody tells you a price, you go, or if you're on the phone, you go, ooh. Just some physical, or yeah, that's a good one. Ooh. Sheesh, really? You'll be amazed at what happens. Anytime you're negotiating, if you're the one that's okay with no deal, if you're willing, truly willing to get up and say, you know what, I don't think we should do this, you are totally in control. You're operating from a position of strength. When you're buying houses, you have got to come from a position of strength. If the seller gets any indication that you really need or want this house, you're in a bad spot. So, you know, maybe we shouldn't do this, is a really good negotiating gambit. The multiple offer strategy is huge. It only works with private sellers, but it's where we give them a choice. I can buy your house this way, or this way, or this way. And I basically say, hey, hello again from, this was to Mark, the realtor. We're interested in the property. Because there's several ways we're willing to purchase, we thought a letter of intent outlining each would be most expedient. One, we'll pay $80,000 with $5,000 down, the seller to take back a first mortgage in the amount of $75,000 with payments of $600 a month until paid. Now you're probably saying, good Lord, where do you buy a house for $80,000? Well, this was a few years ago, and by the way, we did end up buying this house for $70,000, and 2 summers ago we sold it for $390,000. So it was a pretty good one, although we held it for 9 years. So this letter goes back a ways, but I continue to use it all the time in slightly different form. And so on option number 1, what is the interest rate I'm offering the seller? 0. $600 a month until paid. So when you pay 0 interest on a seller financing deal, how much of your payment goes toward paying down the principal? All of it. If you have a 30-year note on a house, how much of the payment goes toward the principal in the first month? Yeah, almost nothing. Then the second option was a little less money, where we were willing to pay a little interest. And the third option was all cash. And the one interesting thing to note about this is you still have to go to contract after this. So you might agree on number 1, number 2, or number 3, but then you still have to go to contract, and there are still a few things left to be negotiated, like closing costs and earnest money and stuff like that. So just to point out. Now, the other thing, too, that I've learned over the years of using this letter is that sometimes the seller will say, well, I'll take $80,000 in number 1 and 5% in number 2 and 15-day closing in number 3. No. That's not how this works. That's why I put or. So it's 1 or 2 or 3. But here's what I've learned. When you give a seller a choice, they often forget, they get so caught up in trying to decide which one of your choices to take, they forget that they don't have to take any of them. It works. I have used this strategy many, many times over the years. Give the seller a choice. Start with the highest price you can offer and work your way down. If you start with a lowball cash offer and work your way up as you go down on the page, it doesn't work as well. Because sometimes sellers are insulted by a lowball offer. They'd rather take a higher price but don't care about interest. So I have learned the hard way to start with the highest price you can pay first and work your way down. So we ease them into the lowball cash offer as opposed to slapping them upside the head. And there are some sellers out there that are extraordinarily emotionally attached to the price that they get on the house. They could care less what the terms are. By the way, I run another ad on a regular basis. It's a classified ad, and it says, I'll pay your price if you sell on my terms. Now, I get two kinds of calls from some sellers on that ad. I'll pay your price if you sell on my terms. The one type of seller who calls is completely confused and has no idea what I'm talking about. And the other one gets it. They understand that what I'm really looking for is to make payment. And in return for that, I'm happy to pay their price. So I'll pay your price if you sell on my terms is a great ad to run if you're looking for sellers who would consider seller financing.